Hello and welcome back. Once again, I am the DM and you have come to my corner. And today, we have some unfortunate news, yet again. Let's get into it. So I was scrolling through my Twitter and I found a post about a Tulsa mass shooting that happened. In Texas, just a little while ago, we had another mass shooting, and at least 3 more involving round about 6 students throughout Texas. That immediately followed the Robb Elementary massacre. This is yet another massacre. So if we scroll down here a little bit, we can see that on May 19th, the suspected gunman underwent back surgery by one Dr. Preston Phillips, one of the 4 people killed in the shooting at the Natalie Building, a 5-story medical complex at San Francisco Hospital. After the shooting occurred, they found a letter that was on the suspect that made it clear that he came with the intent to kill Dr. Phillips and anyone who got in his way, because he blamed Dr. Phillips for his ongoing pain following his back surgery. Showing down a little bit more, we can see that this individual, who I am not going to name, bought an AR-style semi-automatic rifle just hours before the shooting. And he also bought a .40 caliber semi-automatic pistol from a pawn shop on May 29th, with both of them being purchased legally. This was reported by ABC News. If we go over to Coco 5 News, we can see that the police have identified the 4 victims. One Dr. Preston Phillips, one Dr. Stephanie Husson. I apologize if I mispronounced the name. One Amanda Glenn, and one William Love. They first received calls about an active shooter at 4:52, and officers arrived at the medical facility at 4:56. And they say they believe the suspect shot himself at 4:58. I want to just, before we continue, I want to point something out with this particular line right here. Okay. Because the massacre that happened at Robb Elementary School had guards on site. Now, I've heard at least one person make the claim that the officers that were on the premises had chased him. I've not seen any evidence for this, and I've not been shown any evidence for this, so I'm not entirely sure if that's true or not, and I don't believe it if I don't have evidence presented when you make the claim. However, even if we assume that they were there, they didn't stop him. And the moment he got into that classroom, we know for a fact the police did fucking nothing for over an hour. They admitted it themselves. They stood outside of the classroom doing nothing. However, that is neither here nor there. What is important is that the police that weren't on the scene, they were alerted at 11:45. The police didn't get there for at least 10 minutes. Here, they got there in 4 minutes. Now, that's amazing. I wish that the other cops had gotten there and actually done their job, but they got there in 4 minutes. And they suspect that 2 minutes after they arrived, the suspect shot himself. which means that within 5 minutes, the individual had gotten into the building and shot and killed 4 people and himself before the cops even got there. In fact, I would dare say that at least 2 of these individuals were already dead by the time the officers got into their car to respond. It's... yeah. I'll discuss more of that and my exact thoughts on why that is so important later. But I want to get through the rest of this article and the further ones so that way we can understand exactly what's going on here. So, after getting his back surgery, the hospital released the suspect 5 days later, and he called Dr. Phillips' office several times complaining of back pain. He met with the suspect for additional help, but he continued to feel back pain. Now, he just had a back surgery. It's a very complex thing. There could be a lot of things going on. However, the police say, and this is how I know it was a semi-automatic handgun, it's right down here. The police said that the suspect bought 2 guns, a semi-automatic handgun on May 29th, and an AR-15 style rifle hours before the shooting. And I would like to remind you all, that AR-15 style rifle was the same one used in the Robb Elementary School massacre. Yet again, another mass shooting that we can see with our own eyes. You don't even need to think about the fact that it's the media saying any of this. We literally can see it happen. You can talk to literally any civilian in Tulsa. Actually, Tulsa's in Oklahoma now that I think about it. And now that I'm looking at that. I was wrong before. I do apologize. I'll probably go back and edit that out, actually. But he bought an AR-15 handgun, or AR-15 style rifle. The same one used before. The same one used, well, maybe not the same one, but the same type and style of rifle used in mass shootings. Because they cause more kills. We can see this with our own eyes, people. This comes just days after the Robb Elementary School shooting. Days, my guy. Days. 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 It hasn't even been a week. Scrolling down, we'll see nothing else. But over here, in this one, we can see that we can see more sources corroborating the story of when he purchased the rifle and what time around he entered the hospital. So this is now 3 entirely separate sources that we have seen. And if you go to Twitter and look this up, you can find even more sources. There's the New York Times that are posting about it. I'm sure probably the local newspapers over in Oklahoma are posting about it. I'm sure it's all over the people's social medias. Probably the people who are most impacted by this being the people who lost a loved one. So like you don't need to question this. There's nothing to question. Right down here. We once again see it corroborated that hours before it, he bought the AR-15 style rifle from a gun store. He bought it legally. I'm also probably going to blur this man's face out or just remove it entirely because he doesn't deserve any kind of recognition in any way, shape, or form. The shooting began around 4:52. Which is about 3 minutes before the police were notified, by the way. As we can see, I believe over I believe it was here. Where was it? It was somewhere in here. Ah, yes, right here. So they were warned at 4:52. This is saying it's at 4:53 when they first got it. Probably minor discrepancy in like a couple seconds of someone's watch. But the shooting began on the second floor of the 5-story building, so he got all the way to the second floor with his guns. A doctor was on a video call, and this is the only reason why the police could respond so fast, is because there was actually a doctor on a video call with someone and told them to call 911 the moment shots were fired. And then police got the first report at 4:53, 1 minute after the shooting started. And then this says they were on scene 3 minutes later. This says they were on scene 4 minutes later. So minor discrepancy, doesn't really matter, but still worth pointing out because it is a difference. The police chief, Franklin, said that the shooter parked in the parking garage, which is typically located underneath the hospital, so he got up 3 floors, not just 2. And then entered through a second floor door. And as soon as he walked in, he began firing at anyone that was in his way. Anyone that was in his way. He didn't even care who it was. Because criminals don't fucking care. Writing laws to do things doesn't stop criminals. They're criminals. Tell me, honestly speaking, please tell me the last time a criminal obeyed the law. Please, I'll wait. Saying a criminal will obey the laws that Congress or anyone else tries to put into place is like saying you're going to give birth to a baby who is never going to eat meat, who is never going to have any candy, who is never going to have any alcohol, is going to live entirely off of milk, orange juice, and lettuce. And he will, that's it. And that will be forever in eternity, and he will never do anything else. Yeah. You see the absurdity in it? Criminals don't follow the law because they're criminals. That's why they're called criminals. In fact, if we look up the dictionary definition of what a criminal is, we see that it's a person who commits a crime. And then if we go further and look up what a crime is, it is activities that involve breaking the law. So please, tell me, please, honestly, earnestly, show me the evidence of the last time a criminal obeyed the law. Please tell me. Please show me in the history books, in the text, in the media, wherever. I want to see one single criminal in the history of existence. One criminal that obeyed the law. You can search for eternity, you'll never find it because it doesn't exist. That's why they are criminals. That's why making a new law doesn't do anything. They're criminals. They're not going to obey your law. You're going to put this law into effect that limits certain things about how guns are purchased. And then criminals are going to circumvent those laws. Or you'll get this where the person literally just goes into the store, hands them the money, and walks out with a fucking weapon. And then goes and does a mass shooting. because your laws that you have in place allow him to do it. So, either your laws work and they prevent these types of things from happening, or it doesn't. These two things are not compatible. It can't be both. It has to be either the laws work or they don't. And given that we have now had, at a minimum, 2 mass shootings and 3 attempted mass shootings in a week, I don't think your law's gonna do shit. 1 week, 2 mass shootings. Okay. At least 25 people now dead. No, sorry. 27 because of the 2 gunmen. And 7 students in jail. Please tell me how your gun reform laws and your gun your stupid gun safety laws, or not even gun safety, because if it was gun safety it might actually do something, because it's a topic that should be talked about. But your gun control laws and your gun reform laws, please tell me how those help when we now have 25 people dead from mass shootings in less than a week. 27, dead in mass shootings in less than a week, and 7 students in jail because of an attempted mass shooting. Please tell me how your fucking gun reform and your fucking gun control has fucking reduced mass shootings and has helped curb violent crimes with guns here in America. Please, I'll wait. You know what? I'll wait just as long as it'll take you to find me a criminal who obeys the law. It's not going to happen. End of story. Now, the shooter died from an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound as officers were making their way to the 2nd floor. Either before the chaos or during it, the shooter called his wife, who alerted authorities, Franklin said. Interesting. This is the only article that mentions him calling his wife, so I'm not going to say they're lying, but it does seem fishy, with only one article corroborating the story. Now, I voted for Biden. I say this every time politics comes up. I say that because I don't agree with what he's doing. I disagree very, very strongly with a lot of what he's now doing. I'm very open about that. I acknowledge when things are happening. And I acknowledge facts. And facts are Biden's fucking up. He's got like a 32% approval rating, which is an all-time low for him. It's terrible. He's doing a terrible job. Statistics and numbers don't lie. Facts don't lie. That's why they're called facts. But let's see what dear old Harris has to say about it, shall we? With her, we must act.
And many more were injured. 4 innocent people lost their lives, and many more were injured. We, of course, all of us hold the people of Tulsa in our hearts, but we also reaffirm our commitment to passing common sense gun safety laws.
I'm glad she phrased it that way. That's the only way I'm even going to consider listening to any kind of thing that they say about guns, is gun safety. Now, again, as I just said, laws don't stop criminals because they are criminals, right? However, this leads me into my next point, which is that polling, numbers, facts don't lie. 90% of Democrats and 85% of Republicans support mental health restrictions on gun ownership. 87% of the population of America. 87%. And you really want to sit there and try and say that these politicians know what's best for us? That they really have our best interests at heart when they want to sit here and make it harder for the law-abiding, regular, common citizen to get a gun? You want to know what happens when the regular, common, law-abiding, sane, sober, moral person has their guns taken away and are no longer allowed to have firearms? You want to know what happens? Venezuela. Now, if you don't know about Venezuela, I mean, you just this alone. This is what happens when the government sits there and makes it harder and harder and harder and harder to get guns for the normal, law-abiding citizen. But 87% of the population doesn't want any kind of mental health restrictions on gun access, because and here's the thing. Okay, here's my stance, and this is what I was getting into. I believe at the top of this right here, where this man got in there. The police got there like 3 to 4 minutes after getting the call, and he had already killed not only 4 people but also himself. Now, why? Why is it that he was able to walk into this hospital, okay, with our sick, with our injured, with our vulnerable, with our extremely important doctors, who, by the way, are suffering a crisis of their own, because after COVID started and everything, doctors and nurses began quitting because of burnout, because they were just getting so tired of the constant, like 13, 14, 15 plus hour shifts every day. Some of them often going days without being able to go home because of how many people were going in. We are losing doctors in America. If you don't believe me, look it up. In fact, here we go. I'll do it for you. Look at that. Like, these are all from 2020, 2021, and 2022. It's not pretty. So what can be done, right? He bought this gun legally, as did the 18-year-old. 2 of them, in fact. So what can be done? If we know that laws don't stop criminals, okay, because we know they don't, because they're criminals. Criminals are people who commit crimes, and crimes, as we know, are things that break the law, right? It's when you do something that violates the law, that the law says you're not allowed to do, and then you go and do it, right? Like go and shoot up a whole bunch of fucking people like this, right? So how do we stop it? What do we do? What do we do, right? So here's what we do. Here's what we do. It's a novel concept. It does exist in the world. I don't remember off the top of my head where, but it does exist. Here's what we do. Here's what we do. Okay. Okay. So, in our schools, right, around, I don't know, middle school, about halfway through middle school, right, at the very least, right, we have a course that's similar to sex education, right, because sex education is a very important topic, and it is. So we introduce another curriculum class right alongside that called gun safety and responsibility, right? Where kids are taught the responsibility that a gun comes with and how to use one safely. They're not given one. They don't even get one to try or anything like that. No. This is just purely educational. They're being taught all this, right? Through visual representations, right? And then, you know what else they're shown? You know what else they're shown? To really scare them and make sure that they understand the consequences? You show the victims. You show them everything that happens during a mass shooting. You don't show them the face of the criminal. You don't just say the names of the victims. You show them the victims. You show them what they looked like before they were murdered, and then you show what they look like afterwards. You put fear into them. You show them something so horrifying that they never even want to contemplate it. And then you know what you do is at 18, you are taken to a gun range, and for the next 2 weeks, you are taught and shown how to use a gun. Just a regular standard handgun. Shown everything you need to do, right? At 18, you're shown everything you need to do to operate a regular handgun properly. You're given your license. You're given a single pistol, not like a high-powered one or anything, just a standard self-defense pistol. And you're given one clip. And then you're told, this is for self-defense only. If you use it for anything other than self-defense, you go to jail for life. End of story. No chance of parole. And you will be locked away and forgotten for all of eternity. Your name will be completely stripped from any historical events. Your name will no longer carry any weight in any history book or any other important literature. And all of your ideals will be completely condemned if you use this pistol or any firearm for anything more than self-defense on another person. And then you stick to it. And when someone goes and does this, you don't plaster their face and name everywhere. No. You show everyone who the victims were and you talk about the victims, while the psychopath is taken away, thrown into a jail cell, and every mention of them stripped. Because psychopaths are psychopaths. And if you really think that a psychopath deserves to have a say in our history, and deserves to have a say in how this once great nation thrives, you're insane. We need to understand that the people that are killed in these shootings are people who are unarmed. These were just there were two doctors It was a nurse and a patient, unarmed. Robb Elementary. 2 students and 19 children. Unarmed. Please respond. Please don't take the initiative because they can't. That's not their job. They have to respond to threats. Now, in an ideal world, they would be able to get there and stop it before anything happened. But in that same ideal world, these things wouldn't ever happen, and therefore police wouldn't even be needed. But we know that's not how the world works. So we need to understand that the individuals that need to be protected the most need to be surrounded by people who can protect them. Not by people who have to respond. I'm not saying that we don't need cops. We absolutely do. Our men in uniform do an amazing job. Men and women, in fact. I salute every single one of them. But the fact is, they are responders. This isn't pretty. Absolute tragedy.